So my name is Björklund, and I'm coming to you from Göteborg, Sweden. I've been working with the containers for, I don't know, some 20 years now. Before it was called Docker and so on. We started out with using it. I think it was called a virtual private server in web hosting at the time, and then taking it from there. And I'm here to talk about the CNC project called Lima. I'm also going to mention a bit about Containerd and BuildKit and the nerdctl, which is default in Lima. And then to talk a bit about how you can run Apptainer on this platform. If I can get the next slide to show. Great. So Lima is short for Linux machines. I started out, I think it was 2015, with the Docker machine, which created a virtual machine so that you could run Docker on top of it. And then we used that as a basis for the Minikube, where I was a maintainer for 5 years. And also in 2019, I started Podman machine, so I could run Podman on a virtual machine. The main reason for these virtual machines was a similar reason that Dave was talking about, and that was that we didn't have privileges to install containers on the terminal server I was using. And also, if you were using a Mac or Windows, then you didn't have the possibility to install, so you needed a virtual machine. And then I found that creating a separate operating system and toolbox for each container runtime was a bit annoying, so we went over to Linux machines. So it works in a similar way. It starts a Linux virtual machine. There is automatic file sharing and port forwarding, similar to WSL on Windows. And the default container runtime is Containerd. And what the Lima project gives you is a single one-liner to start different so-called templates, which are YAML files. And then you can run your container runtime. Right now, it's virtual machines on the local host, but we are working on a Google Summer of Code project to provide a plugin system so that you could use cloud machines or physical machines on your network instead of virtual machines on the host you're running on. And currently supported virtualization solutions are QEMU and VZ on macOS. So Containerd then. Containerd is one of the components of Docker that was spawned off from the big Docker monolith in 2015, at the same time when the OCI was founded. And Containerd is a daemon that orchestrates the various components. So when you are talking to Docker Engine, the API, it is then talking to the lower level Containerd to start your containers. And then Containerd is talking to a program called runc. And runc is then all the bits and pieces needed to talk to the Linux underlying system. It's sometimes called an engine, which can be a bit confusing, but it is used by Containerd internally, so it's just a program. It's not a daemon in itself. And both of these are written in Go, by the way. One of the reasons that Lima was founded was to be able to play more with Containerd. Containerd has some lower level debugging efforts, but there was a need for a Docker-like CLI. And Akihiro Suda, the founder of Lima and also nerdctl, as it was called, thought it would be interesting to name it after Containerd, which has a nerd in it. And then this is then used So it has bleeding edge features and stuff that is not in Docker yet. But you can talk directly to Containerd and to BuildKit. And in Lima, we use a distribution called nerdctl full, which is a big tarball with everything you need. So the basic nerdctl command is then very similar to Docker. So you could run your nerdctl ps and images and run and so on instead of having to learn a new lower level command for CTR. It also has integrated Docker Compose with the Compose specification, so you can run your Docker Compose YAML files. When you do nerdctl build, it will talk directly to the BuildKit daemon, and that enables you to build OCI images using the Docker file. And then you can push this to a registry, and you might be aware that the Docker registry is also now a separate project called distribution. So you can run that as your registry if you don't already have a registry. And by default, the registry is Docker.io. Yeah, so I thought I would share what it looks like. If I can find my... So can you see the font? Is it okay?
A little bigger.
Yeah, a little bigger. Okay, so there is the main command called Lima CTL, and that has a bunch of various options. One is ls, for instance. You can see various instances we have started. And then there is one called Lima. So if you run Lima, then you enter into this virtual machine that was created before here. And then you have then access to this nerdctl, where you can run nerdctl pull busybox and all the Docker stuff. And then it talks directly to Containerd. So there is no Docker daemon running, but you can accomplish many of the same things. So there you have a virtual machine, and sorry, this is the default one. Apptainer is coming right in next section. Jumping ahead. So this is like, so this is the Docker-like user CLI, which talks to Containerd and BuildKit. And there is a wrapper called nerdctl Lima, which will actually run just Lima nerdctl for you. So if you run this wrapper, it will execute Lima nerdctl, and that. So on my host, I can run nerdctl Lima, and then I can talk to the system inside of the virtual machine. Yeah. Oh, great. Let's see where my presentation went. And I didn't show the start and stop, but basically what is happening in Lima when you start a machine is that server image, a cloud init image is downloaded, matching your distribution of choice. Then a cloud config YAML file is created for you based on your choices. And then this is then created into one of these cloud init seed images. And then we start the hypervisor for you using these created images and the configuration, the number of CPUs and the memory you have chosen. And then there is a tunneling of SSH, which is what is used to talk to the virtual machine, and this is what happens then under the hood when you run these Lima commands. So that's why I call it Lima the hard way. I detailed all the stuff that you need if you wanted to do this yourself, what you need to do in a GitHub project. The actual file sharing and port forwarding is available separately for Linux in a project called Shocker, which is a predecessor to Lima. If you thought that all of this was complicated, there is also an easier way. And there is a GUI for the Lima project, which then has a quick start menu where you can choose your container engine. And by clicking the button, and you can choose to edit the YAML, or you can choose to go with the defaults. But it's using the same CLI commands under the hood. And this is written in Qt, so it's available for Mac and Linux and Windows. Although the Windows version has a bit of issues in Lima, so it's not production ready yet. So we have a template for Docker and for Podman, and also one for Apptainer. And there are similar wrappers to NerdCity Lima for Docker Lima and Podman Lima and Apptainer Lima. So you can run these commands, these wrappers, on your host, and it will talk to the VM. So that's how you can run Apptainer on, for instance, macOS. We also have orchestration examples for single node clusters. You can do like Minikube and start a single node clusters using K3s or a normal kubeadm Kubernetes. And there's the experimental use mode Kubernetes where everything runs as non-root. So there's some cutting edge things happening there. And now then, for the question of how do you run Apptainer on this system, you will need to install Lima, either through the binaries from GitHub or through Homebrew. And then you can run limactl and pick the Apptainer template. And this will then start the VM and install Apptainer on it for you. It's similar to Vagrant if you have used that. So it will happen in this one-liner. And then you can either log into the VM, and that's the method we are showing on the Apptainer documentation, or you can run this wrapper on the host. Since your home directory is shared, you have access to your files inside the VM. And by default, we map the home directory as read-only so that you don't mess up your host from the VM. But we want to maintain the same illusion as in Docker, and that is that you're actually running on the host, except in a different operating system. So you have access to your files. But then there is a regular mount in temp Lima where it's read-write and you can share files. So when you run Apptainer, you will find that the default of your home directory is read-only, which might be a bit confusing if you try to do Apptainer pull or Apptainer build. But I will try to demo this as well then. So for this demo, I will connect to the Mac instead of my Linux laptop. So here then, so you will do brew install Lima, and I will also install QEMU just so I can use both of them. And I prepared it a bit so we don't have to wait for the download of it, but I can then Lima start Apptainer. And this is using the built-in virtualization. You also have access to Rosetta for running Intel binaries on your ARM Mac. We fixed a few bugs in that recently in Apptainer. And now we can then either run, as it says, Lima Apptainer. And then we have Apptainer. There are some issues with the PPA, and we are running Ubuntu here, so we don't have 1.4.0 yet, but it's a normal Ubuntu, so you can download it from the homepage if you want to upgrade it. So I can do export Lima instance Apptainer to have it be the default. So I'm running on Darwin or macOS, and I also have access to Linux. And so if you create a zip file, you notice it's a run singularity script. So if you have the run singularity script, it will then execute Apptainer. And if then Apptainer is a alias or link to Apptainer, then you can actually execute your Python file or your Python stiff on the macOS. So I can see all my files on the macOS, but I can also execute them even though it's a Linux application inside this zip file. And since all my files are exported, I can see my Hello Pi here. So this is how you can run Apptainer on your Mac, so to speak. And some of the commands in
we're at the time limit here, Anders. So
yeah, okay,
good.
Yeah, no, that is it. I was just going to say that some of the commands are available on the Mac, but not Apptainer itself. But you can, for instance, list the files and so on. And that was my presentation.
Oh, great, thank you very much. Any quick question for him? There we go. In the back. So, say who you are.
Can I come that side or it's fine? Yeah. Okay. So I had one quick question and just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Question for you. Are you trying to run like Apptainer in VMs, or what is actually the thing you are doing? I just want to understand that.
Okay,
yeah.
So Apptainer is like an orchestrator for the VM. So when you do Lima CTL start, it will start a VM for you. The VM itself is running in a hypervisor, like QEMU, which is then using an accelerator. So it's using KVM on Linux, for instance. So that's what it's doing. So it's performing a similar task to Vagrant, as I was saying in the beginning.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and start to share, Brandon. We got one more quick question for Anders.
Will do.
Hi, I'm Marco Mambelli from Fermilab. I've been using actually Lima and also Colima, the containers, for a while. So I was wondering, at the end, your VM, the Lima, it's native ARM on the Mac. So you use, is Apptainer running natively as well, or you use QEMU somewhere in between to run the x86-64?
Yeah, so if you run ARM binary, then it will run natively. And if you run Intel binary, then it will use Rosetta to run, even though you are in Linux. Apple has made Rosetta available to Linux VMs.
So, and it's doing it automatically. So the binaries that I'm downloading and running via Apptainer, I don't have
So
to
you
worry.
should be able to. No, you should be able to just execute your zip file. Although I would recommend running it natively because it's faster. But
Thanks a lot, Anders. And let's go ahead, Brandon.